When fur trappers were looking for beaver along the upper Dolores River in 1833, they discovered evidence that Spanish mining prospectors had already been there as early as the 1700s. We'll learn about it here on Ghost Towns and More. Nestled in the San Juan Mountains in southwestern Colorado, the El Rio de Dolores Valley is home to the beautiful Dolores River, where early American trappers stumbled upon remains from Spanish smelting that gave them a hint that precious ores had already been found. Not able to find any gold or silver, the trappers moved on. It wasn't until about 30 years later that prospectors returned and discovered that precious ores were hidden within the mountains around the Rio Dolores Valley. It wasn't until the 1870s that ore samples revealed that there was a substantial fortune buried in the hills, and when word got out, fortune seekers came in by the hundreds, and the small mining camp became known as Rico, which is Spanish for rich, and to commemorate the Spanish explorers who came over a century before. The mountainous area around Rico was found to have more mineral treasures than the first explorers would have guessed, such as silver, gold, iron, copper, coal, manganese, zinc, bismuth, pyrite, and molybdenum. The population of Rico had gone from 50 in the early 1870s to 1,250 by 1879. By the following year, the mining activity was attracting all kinds of business opportunities. Prices for empty land parcels went from $5 each to $5,000 within a year. The need for a lumber mill prompted a man from Silverton to move his 3,500-pound sawmill on a large wagon all the way to Rico. At the time, there were only crude trails and roads leading to the town, and people had to send a team of over a dozen men to help him clear a road so his 6 horses could pull the large machine into town. A conflict developed in 1881 over accusations of claim jumping at the Johnny Bull Mine, which resulted in an armed standoff between several men. By the time the contentions were resolved, no shots were fired and no deaths were reported. One of the more notable stories of Rico residents was about David Swickheimer. He purchased a mining interest in Rico. The cost of operations became so much that he had to work other jobs such as hauling freight, served as a sheriff, and also as a saloon keeper. David's wife Laura won $5,000 in a Louisiana lottery, so they used that money to put into the operational costs of the mine. But when that savings had dwindled down to about $100, Laura started offering to pawn her jewelry to keep the workers paid. But then an event took place in 1887 that would change their lives. One evening, their miners didn't come home from their shift, and the miners' wives feared that something like a cave-in had happened. The miners had uncovered a rich vein of silver and gold, and were so excited about the find, they couldn't bring themselves to stop working for the day. The new find made the Swickheimers the first millionaires of Rico. Then they sold their mine for $1.25 million in 1891. Winters were harsh in that region, and access to Rico during the snow season cut off the town from receiving badly needed supplies. Electricity and the Rio Grande Southern Railroad was built into Rico, and by 1892 it had a population of 5,000, with 23 saloons, a bank, the Enterprise Hotel, 2 churches, 2 newspapers, a courthouse building, and, as with so many other mining towns, a red light district. For the most part, life was good in Rico, and so successful were the mining operations that the Black Hawk Tram was built in 1892, hauling 80 tons of ore every 10 hours. Rico's future looked promising. "1893 was the most productive year for Rico. But that same year also spelled doom for the prosperity of silver mining throughout the country. President Grover Cleveland convinced Congress to repeal the Sherman Silver Act that required the government to buy silver to back currency. Well, this move destroyed the future of mining camps and sent the mining industry into chaos. Within months, the population of Rico plunged to 2,500, and the decline continued to the year 1900, when the population was further reduced to just over 800 people. In 1903, the beautiful Enterprise Hotel was destroyed by fire, and the Rico State Bank went into receivership. The only thing that saved Rico from complete failure was the diversification of mining of other valuable ores, such as lead and zinc, that enabled the town to survive beyond 1910. During the years leading up to World War I and beyond, the need for base metal ores supported the town mining industry. The Great Depression in 1929 took a heavy toll on Rico. Although some small-scale mining did keep the town alive for many more years, it only remained profitable until about 1949. During the 1950s, the railroad was taken out, and today only a couple hundred residents remain, leaving Rico as a ghost of its former self. A number of preserved relics from the glory days of Rico are left, such as several historic buildings, the head frame of the Atlantic Cable Mine, and the immense 50,000-gallon water tower from the now overgrown railroad yard. Rico is definitely a place you'll want to visit. The cemetery that is just outside of town is one of the more unique of its kind in its appearance, with many trees that have grown up among the old headstones of people who lived during the grandeur of the decades of the past.